Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are exploring the absolute ultimate control center of your existence, the human nervous system. You know, we often think of our physical bodies as these mechanical machines and our minds as, well, kind of like ghosts just hovering somewhere inside them. But what if I told you that the barrier between the mind and the body doesn't actually exist? Within the somewhat limited paradigm of modern Western science, we often treat the nervous system as purely physical. But it serves in a far greater capacity than just being the physical quarterback of our body. It's the interface where conscious self-awareness actually attaches to your physical vehicle. It is the place where, quite literally, the physical puppet becomes the puppeteer. Okay, let's dive into this with a brilliant quote from the endocrinologist Hans Selye. He once noted that stress can be anything from the lash of a whip to a passionate kiss. I absolutely love this because it immediately humanizes our biology. Our nervous system isn't just some basic threat detection alarm, it's the network that processes every single aspect of our lives, the challenging, the terrifying, and the incredibly beautiful. Every emotion you feel, every memory you store, every time you heal, it all relies on this one magnificent system. Here is our quick roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with our complex control center, check out the autonomic balance, and then explore the gut-brain axis. After that, we'll look at healing through metabolism, and finally wrap up with ancient practices, modern science. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, our complex control center. We've got to understand the biological hardware before we can really grasp the software.
Notice the clear visual distinction between our two main neural networks here. Highlighted in orange is the central nervous system, or CNS, which is safely locked away within your skull and the vertebral canal of your spine, basically your brain and your spinal cord. Then, branching out in blue, we have the peripheral nervous system, or PNS. These are the bundles of long fibers and axons that connect that central hub to every single other millimeter of your body, turning your thoughts into actions and translating physical touches into actual sensations.
The sheer scale of this operation is what's truly mind-blowing. This entire system operates through a massive grid of roughly 86 billion specialized cells, which we know as neurons. And they communicate via tiny electrical currents, action potentials, that transmit across microscopic gaps called synapses. When they're properly insulated by healthy myelin, these electrical pulses just race through your body, allowing you to process complex information, learn physical skills, and retain memories. It is your primary connection to both your internal environment and the external world around you. Moving right along to Section 2, the autonomic balance. This is where we look at the subconscious engine that's constantly driving our survival and recovery. What we're looking at here brilliantly illustrates the invisible seesaw happening inside you every single second of the day. Your autonomic nervous system usually operates completely under the radar, without any conscious control. On the left, you have the sympathetic system, your classic fight or flight response. It mobilizes your energy, speeds up your heart, and opens your airways for immediate action. But on the right, you have the parasympathetic system, which is all about rest and digest. That's what restores homeostasis and repairs the body, and we absolutely need both. Think about it. If your sympathetic nervous system didn't cause your blood vessels to constrict the exact second you stood up from bed, your blood pressure would plummet and you'd faint on the spot. It's this continuous, elegant balancing act that keeps us alive. And incredibly, this exact push and pull dynamic was intuitively mapped out for thousands of years by different cultures, which we're going to explore in just a bit. Now, within that parasympathetic rest and digest side, we have an absolute superstar, the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve carries these vast, sweeping responsibilities. It physically connects the brain to major organs, essentially acting as a massive two-way messenger highway. When it's functioning well, it helps regulate your mood, digestion, inflammation, and heart rate. Get this, medical-grade vagus nerve stimulation is literally FDA approved for treatment-resistant depression. And the cool part is, by adopting natural strategies like diaphragmatic breathing or cold water immersion, we can consciously stimulate this nerve to bring our own bodies back into a healing state. Let's move over to Section 3, the gut-brain axis, and see how this builds on the idea that our nerves extend way, way beyond our brains. 90%. That staggering number represents the amount of your body's serotonin that resides not in your head, but in your gut. Your enteric nervous system manages your digestive tract, and incredibly, it actually contains more nervous tissue than your entire spinal cord. It pumps out over 30 different neurotransmitters, including half of your body's dopamine. So when you say you have a gut feeling, That is not just a metaphor. It's your massive second brain analyzing environmental conditions, reacting to the microbes in your food, and directly influencing your mood and immune system in real time. Honestly, it is no wonder so many ancient traditions place the centers of deep intuition and vital energy right there in the belly.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, healing through metabolism. Because if the gut and the brain are that physically linked, then what we consume profoundly impacts our mental health. When we dive into the clinical data, a really fascinating bidirectional link emerges between metabolic disorders and psychiatric conditions. Decades of longitudinal studies, from Perry to Lupino, show a two-way street paved by chronic inflammation and impaired insulin signaling. To give you an example, children with high insulin and metabolic dysregulation face a significantly increased risk of developing psychotic and mood disorders later in adulthood. And depression itself actually increases the risk of weight gain and diabetes. But there's a very promising flip side here. Recent pilot trials, like the one from Sethi just this year, are actively using metabolic interventions. They took patients with bipolar disorder and schizophrenia and utilized a ketogenic diet, restricting carbohydrates to just 20 grams a day. The highly adherent participants experienced a massive 32% reduction in psychotic symptoms alongside huge improvements in mood and metabolic recovery. By literally changing the brain's energy source, we are seeing measurable improvements in psychiatric symptoms. Finally, we reach Section 5, Ancient Practices, Modern Science. Let's look at how long-standing spiritual and cultural traditions were basically hacking this neurobiology centuries before the microscope was even invented.
What we're seeing here brilliantly illustrates the convergence of ancient wisdom and modern clinical data. Long before we had functional MRIs, traditional systems mapped the nervous system using their own highly intricate terminology. In traditional Chinese medicine and Qigong, energy centers like the dantians and the central hara line align perfectly with our major nerve plexuses and the descending pathway of the vagus nerve. And in ancient Indian traditions, the chakra system and the nadis, specifically the Ida, Pingala, and Sushumna channels, they uncannily mirror the left-right push and pull of the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems, all wrapping around that central column of the spinal cord. It's fascinating. Today, science explains exactly how this works. The organic combination of physical movement, slow, deep breathing, and mental focus found in Tai Chi or yoga effectively regulates the autonomic nervous system. It increases your parasympathetic vagal tone and improves heart rate variability. By intentionally engaging these deep networks, these ancient practices promote neuroplasticity, decrease chronic inflammation, and might even facilitate endogenous neuroregeneration, which means activating your brain's own stem cells to repair damage. Turns out moving meditation is highly advanced applied neurology.
So the crucial takeaway here is that this brain-heart-immune axis is a dynamic, continuous loop. Emerging fields like quantum biology are now bridging the gap, showing us at a subatomic level that our immune system acts as both a messenger and an actor. This effectively validates what many spiritual and occult teachings have described for ages as a unified mind-body field. The immune system doesn't just quietly respond to neural signals, it influences brain function directly. This means that emotional states like stress physically exacerbate cellular inflammation, while relaxation and mindfulness physically promote cellular healing. It's an unbroken circle connecting what you think, what you feel, and how your individual cells operate. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a profound thought. The nervous system is our instrument of creation. It's the interface where you dream, where you think abstractly, and where you experience the absolute richness of existence. You are not just a passenger in this biological vehicle. Through your metabolic choices, your breathing, and your daily practices, you are the puppeteer. You have the tools right now to rewire the connections, to calm the inflammation, and to shape your very own mind-body reality. The instrument is yours, so what kind of music are you going to play?